Yes. All right. Well, that was a really good clap. Nice. Well, excellent. Welcome to the Business of Esports panel here at Georgetown University, School of Continuing Studies. Woo! Yes. Extra special thanks to the two programs who helped make this possible, the Sports Industry Management Graduate Program and the Technology Management Graduate Program. Today we're going to be talking about esports from a business side. I know that there's a lot of you who are interested in esports from a gaming perspective, I assume. Right? I hope? Oh my God. This is not a chemistry class. This is great. You're in the right place. And I know there's a lot of passion, a lot of excitement, enthusiasm about esports as a hobby. Red Bull DC, the finals of their tournament circuit is this weekend, so there's a lot of fans from the gaming side in town. What we want to talk about is the business side. How do you get into esports? What is the structure of business like? Where does the money come from? How does it even happen? So at this panel today, we're going to do it in two parts. First, talking about how a lot of these businesses are influenced and how they leverage esports, and then a little bit about how you can get involved too. So joining me on the panel, we have Ben Goldhaber from Twitch TV. We have Chris Radtke from Ziff Davis. We have Slasher, aka Rodwin Breslau, from forever in every type of journalism.
That was good, Sean.
The most infamous esports journalist of all time. So, yes, Slasher. So, and I'm Sean Plott, or Day9, and I do Day9 TV. I do myself.tv, and I work at Artillery Games doing game development. And of course, esports is a big interest and focus there. So if we could just go down the line, I'd like each of the wonderful panelists to talk a little bit about what it is they do and sort of how they got here. Because even though each of us has an official title, given the way that esports is such a new industry, we've gotten the chance to have our hands in a huge variety of projects. So Ben, let's begin with you.
Hey everybody, I'm Ben, aka Fishsticks. I am the Director of Content Marketing at Twitch, which means I'm the guy responsible for talking about and promoting and interfacing with pretty much all of the major esports events, conventions, and the coolest content on Twitch, bubbling that up so you all see it on the front page and on our blog, social media, newsletter, that type of thing. I've been an esports fan and a competitive gamer since a very young age. I've been actually playing games competitively pretty much my whole life.
Wait, but how long? How many years?
Well, I actually started playing my first online competitive game when I was 11, and I played that game, probably similar to you and Brood War back in the day, and original StarCraft, for about 10 years, and then eventually moved into the media side of things, doing commentary, event organizing, and eventually finding a way to work at Justin TV Gaming, and then building that into Twitch.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Chris Radtke. I'm the Director of Content Strategy at Ziff Davis. And what that means is I find ways to make money off of content. I started out at a site called UGO as the games editor, and games journalism side. Moved on into content strategy, which is figuring out how to do things. And now I work with Ziff Davis on a lot of the tech sites and really coming up with new projects and new ways to build audiences and entertain people and inform.
Cool.
My name is Rod Breslau, also known as Slasher. I've been a journalist and broadcaster and enthusiast in esports for around 15 years now. Most recently, I worked at CBS Interactive at GameSpot.com and On Gamers, which is a new esports-centered focused site which launched at the end of last year. I've been writing about esports probably for 10 or so years, along with broadcasting, which Sean kind of got into this whole thing as well, and have basically been in the industry since the early 2000s.
Cool. And I'm Sean Plott. I played Brood War for a very long time, way back when being a pro meant that you had earned any money at all. Did that for about a decade until Day9 TV kind of just happened by accident, just doing video shows on my live stream, which grew in viewership to the point where it could be sustained as a business. And most recently, I have moved to game development, working on an RTS right now. And of course, given that esports is in all of our bloods, and especially in my love of Brood War, and esports, I think, is a really interesting strategy for a lot of upcoming game developers. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to all the wonderful panelists who are joining us today. Awesome. So let's begin by talking a little bit about how the business side of things works. I think one of the best examples is, of course, Twitch TV, which in many people's eyes is one of the prime reasons esports can exist at all as an industry. And Ben, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how Twitch leverages esports as one of the central parts of the site.
Well, if you use Twitch, obviously you're here sitting on the esports panel. You probably know that esports makes up a large portion of what Twitch is. In the very early days, when Justin TV, when we were first discovering that gaming and esports was something we wanted to continue to explore and flesh out, it was actually StarCraft that was really the landmark game for us. It was the title that really flipped the switch. We realized that it's not just a couple broadcasters niche here or there doing this, but there's a huge community behind it as well. I don't know if anyone's old school enough in the StarCraft 2 community to remember the SC Reddit Invitational. Anyone out there? Maybe? No? StarCraft Reddit.
There's 4 of you. Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Justin TV was actually one of the few sponsors for that, and we ended up giving about just a few $1,000s, but it yielded over 30,000 concurrent viewers for multiple play days, which today is like, oh, whatever. But at the time, it was like, oh my God, we have 30,000 viewers watching a single stream at once. It was pretty much mind-blowing and revolutionary. So since the very early days of Twitch and Justin TV gaming, esports has been a core driver of traffic to our site. It's been something that we've invested in heavily, something that we spent a lot of time thinking about.
Well, I mean, especially in terms of monetization, a lot of times with videos, like with video content, they tend to be short, 2 to 3 minute snippets on a lot of sites, but the way that monetization works at Twitch, I think, is really interesting, that you get very long streams that last for a while. You get those running the streams in charge of the ads. Subscriptions are recently a really critical part to the site. Can you talk a little bit about how Twitch approaches monetization with the community so involved?
Sure. So just like any video platform, online video platform, primary driver of revenue for us is online video advertising. So that's the pre-roll, the mid-roll that you might see when you're watching when you're watching a StarCraft or otherwise stream. The broadcaster runs that at their own discretion, as Sean mentioned. So we have a partner program with currently over 7,000 partners who share revenue with Twitch. So every time a video is run and we deliver a certain number of impressions, we pay out what's called a CPM on that. So the broadcaster gets to keep part of that as well. The other big revenue source for us is subscriptions, which is something that we see in esports, casual broadcasting, but all the way up to the largest esports tournaments also use subscription models. It's actually something that we have Sean to thank for helping us come up with those, pushing the envelope with the subscription model back in the day, and it works out really well for a lot of our esports broadcasters and pretty much the whole website. All of our partners use it these days.
Yeah, I mean, to speak to that a little bit, I mean, there's always a question of how do you generate money, but how do you do it in a way that doesn't piss off the viewer? Because I think that views, especially in the esports space, aren't just views. It's very often repeat viewers, the same people coming back again and again and again and again and again. And if you frustrate even 20% of that audience, that's a permanent drop-off. So the subscription program is basically voluntarily donate $5 a month to this streamer if you would like. And there's other little bonuses, but I mean, doesn't your data show that most of the reason people subscribe is just because they like the streamer?
Yeah, at the core, it's really a way to support that broadcaster, that tournament, whatever it may be. That's what we've seen. Our users have told us very clearly that the main reason you subscribe to a channel is to support the broadcaster. But there's some other awesome benefits, but it's basically becoming part of a community.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
With your wallet.
Yeah, right. It's an investment just to support, just out of want, which is, I think, a really interesting area of exploration in the entire space, because you can involve the community in that level. And Chris, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I mean, you have years and years of experience looking at, you have millennia of experience working in online video content.
Yes, and it's changed so much I started out in the late 90s, so that makes me 65. And there's it started out, it was in terms of how do you even get video viewed. You talk about small little bite-sized chunks. That still works in terms of passing around, but you really want people to spend time with your content. And as the internet changes, as digital and TV and everything starts to blend together more and more, it's all about long form, be it live streams, be it long form programming, and it's people are consuming video everywhere they go, and it's not you have to sit in front of your computer anymore. So there is a aspect to it where, people are able to consume it in a lot of different ways, and now, what you used to do when you watched TV, it's now what's happening in your pocket. Well, wait, that sounded a little wrong, but there is a lot of opportunities, especially for publishers, to think now. You still need a short form strategy, but how are you going to entertain people for a long period of time? And that's the holy grail with advertisers. When you're looking to make money off of this stuff, you want people sitting there and enjoying and spending as much time with your content as possible. Engagement is the magic word that you'll hear behind the walls.
Yeah, if you can speak a little bit more to why engagement is important, because, for instance, what are ways that a video can make money? Well, you can just run an ad at the start, run an ad in the middle, but there's obviously a lot more in-video promotions, or a tournament that where the commentators are talking about the products that are supporting it, or even long-form video pieces like what you'll see out of IGN, where it's just a long-form discussion of a game and that sort of thing. Where do you think the video space is heading in that sense?
Well, I think you take a lot of cues from what's existed before and what works, right? And you talk about professional, traditional professional sports, the way that they've integrated sponsors, and the way that, sometimes you're like, you get a little, freaked out, but for the most part, it's an elegant, kind of, you realize that sponsor X is a part of this show, and, okay, sure, and you associate that sponsor with it, and that's really what the advertisers are looking for. They don't necessarily, some of them want to interrupt you and basically get your attention over here, but they want to be treated as part of the production that you're putting on. So as you think about video, and as you think as a publisher and as a creator, really the key way to kind of stand out, the youth of today, is think about ways how you can bring your clients and your advertisers and the people that want to support you with advertising dollars, how do you bring them into your show where you're not going to upset the balance of the program you're trying to create, you're not going to, piss off the user, and do it in a way where it actually makes sense and people can start identifying that product with the show that they really love in a way that's not going to make people feel slimy.
Yeah,
Does that make any sense?
What'd you say?
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. It's, I think that actually can't be overstressed how important it is not to frustrate the person watching, because it's very easy to see an invasive ad and to go, they're only doing that because they need to pay the bills or something like that. It actually harms the bottom line in a lot of ways. And Rod, I wanted to ask you, since you've been on the journalist side for so long, but also as a core part of all these communities. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit to the sorts of advertising and sponsoring way long ago at the start of the 2000s and how it's developed and matured today, what you've seen work and maybe even not work.
Sure. Well, the digital age and how online advertising works has changed remarkably over the years since the beginning of the web. Native advertising and banner ads, which used to prevail over the internet in the early 2000s, is pretty much despised by everyone now, and also brings in the least amount of money in terms of CPMs and how much you actually look at the ad and how much you click on it. So the early banner ads of the early internet age are pretty much done with. And then advertisers and publishers have tried to think of multiple different ways, interstitials, ads that pop up directly when you open websites, when you hover over ads. Sometimes they launch into full page ads. You have video ads that are pre-rolls, mid-rolls, post-rolls. You have pop-up rolls in the video. You have the little pop-up ads inside of the video that you can click on. So the advertising ways that advertisers and publishers have tried to work together has changed remarkably over time. At the same time, the internet user, all you guys, have become less and less okay with invasive advertising as the internet has gone on. And you do not want to stand for crappy advertising, which hinders your ability to watch something or to read something, which is why ad block rates are up to 65, 70%, across the board for, you have Twitch and MLG as streaming partners. You have a bunch of different websites, which all are now trying to post things of trying to make you stop using ad block. But that is really, at least to me, from doing content for so long, the user is always right. If me as a viewer, absolutely, I don't want to see intrusive ads myself. So as a content producer, I know that the people who I'm producing content for also don't want to have invasive advertising. Now, as content producers and as publishers, we need to make money for these events and for this content to actually succeed. So there has to be a give and take from both the user and the content producer side. Users have to realize that if they really want their favorite content to succeed, whether it be video content or written content that includes live blogs, live video, video on demand, for sites they like and for content that they like, they should probably turn off ad block rates, because the advertising is a good portion of the reason they make money. You also have subscriptions and donations, which is being integrated much into live video, and YouTube is going to have subscriptions there soon. So subscriptions is a thing that actually used to be big in the early 2000s, which went away over the mid 2000s and early 2010 because people didn't like subscriptions and they wanted it to only be advertising. And now we've come full circle back into subscriptions being a big thing. But there is a give and take between the user and the ads and having to deal with them.
Yeah, I want to come back in a little bit to talk about what you think are some of the really good ways that sponsors and advertisers have been able to work in the esports space specifically. But I wanted to come to you, Ben, and ask about the effect of ad block and sort of how it changes your business model and what sort of effect it has, and sort of how you deal with that in the space.
Yeah, ad block is very real and pretty prevalent at this point, but it doesn't really affect. As long as you're getting good viewership, you're staying consistent with your streaming schedule, you're streaming many hours, you're building an audience. That's really what the most important thing is, building the core. I personally believe, because those are the people who are more likely to subscribe. They're going to buy your T-shirts. They're going to be more invested in your sponsors as well. If you're an esports athlete or pro gamer, whatever you want to call it, and you actually build up your community, you really talk to your fans, then they're going to be much more likely to buy into whatever it is that is bringing in the bacon for you. If it's subscriptions, if it's your sponsors, if it's anything like that, it's really about building out that core.
And that's actually interesting you bring up, because we had a very similar set of data at Day9 TV, where Day9 TV has historically just had very stable viewership. And when we introduced the subscriber program, we did see that when we did special events and special presents and giveaways and that sort of thing, there was occasionally spikes, but would often settle back down to the same growth rate. And the only thing that actually caused the growth rate to be slow and steady up was just purely the content side of things. From my perspective, even from dealing with ad block, I found that simply asking is enough. If you'd be so kind as to not have ad block on, that would really help. I'm going to be running commercials. They will not interrupt any of the content. I will always be taking a break. And we've had historically very low levels of ad block in Day9 TV, and that's very interesting to me, given that the connection that a streamer or broadcaster has with the audience and the fact that both are treating one another like normal, real people, as opposed to just numbers or advertising revenue sources, actually helps the bottom line. And Chris, you could talk a little bit to that, how you see it changing the editorial content.
One of the things that, look, ad blocking, on the other side of the business, those ads, they're finding ways to get past that. And a lot of that is through sponsoring content and content being created by brands with publishers. And there's a way to do it that's not so good, and there's a way to do it that actually works and adds value to the users of the audience. And it really ties in with the fact that, when we're talking with an advertiser, it's like, okay, if that advertiser's hell-bent on interrupting the user experience and here's a check, we're going to do it, okay, then as a publisher who needs to stay in business, sometimes you have to just go that route. But what we try to do is push our clients to think about, look, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z over the course of the next few months. And these are big, large content programs that we think are big and important to our readers. Get involved. How do we take your brand and make it, at least, tie it in with what we're doing and support the angle, and be transparent about it, and be kind of upfront. And the reality is, you talk about kind of the subscription model, and and Rob was saying how it used to be something that was a deal and a big deal, and now it's come back. That's a way to support artists. Look at Patreon. As a way to keep podcasters alive, and and you're a famous comic book artist. So there are ways for you, the audience, to support the people that are creating the content, but you have to understand that nobody can produce content and the stuff that you enjoy without some kind of support from a revenue side. And that's the thing you have to remember is no matter, think about your favorite brands, your favorite games, your favorite movies, TV shows, doesn't matter what it is. That's a business, and businesses need to make money. And that's where, when we start talking about how to get your foot in the door and how to get a job, there are a lot of aspects that are involved where, you may be really good at one thing, but think about how that's going to ultimately improve your business and where do you fit in the bottom line. And there's a way to think about that as, some folks may have a precious attitude towards that. Like, I'm an artist, in journalism, let's say, it's like, no, I beyond that, I don't need to make money. It's like, yes, you do. Look at newspapers. They're not making money and they're dying. So that's a real way to think about it. So if you're looking to kind of get into this world, let your passion drive it, and let your interests drive it, and your expertise, and all the things that you learn, and all the things that pick a path to go down. But also constantly think that you're going to be part of a business, and how do you affect the bottom line? Are you contributing to the bottom line, or are you taking away from it? And that's going to make a big difference in how far you go.
I think this is a really interesting thing, especially with from the game development side, how game companies are viewing esports. And I think that League of Legends with the LCS is a great model for why, especially free-to-play games, are really successful and can leverage esports very well. When your game is free-to-play, very often you are treating it as a service. And by making a really cool, awesome production, showing how fun the competition is, that is a way to show that the individual purchase of that specific champion, it's a way to show its value and to show what is fun about it and why you might want to try to use it. So it's great that the production has a very clear, very close to home source of revenue. Red Bull itself is putting on the DC event here. There's a very small distance between the product that is being sold and the production. It gets increasingly difficult when there's a lot of layers in between, and we're starting to see that's why so many publishers are stepping in and taking charge in the game space especially, because esports is such a great way to increase the longevity and the interest in your content and in the purchasing behind in those games.